So I'm going to try to catch up. I hope I can finish this in half an hour. I was challenged actually, and we can go to the next slide by the question that Secretary Monteo had yesterday. I had a presentation all about cloud, but then he said, you know, technology is simply a tool and an enabler. And technology enables organizations. Now, I just wanted a very quick snapshot of how technology enables an organization. If you look at the modern model of an organization, there's 4 components. The strategy, which is your objective, your vision, mission, goals. And your strategy tells you what things you should do, what process, and how you structure your people. And the structure, you know, your regional offices, your processes, dictates what technology you should use. So technology has always been a slave, right, to strategy. Next. But if you flip that diamond over, you'll see there's actually a 5th component, which is the people. The people populate the structure. The people devise the strategy. The people use the technology. The people perform the process. And there's a 6th component, which is in all of your agencies. I know, because I gave you government. And this 6th component is very critical, culture. Technology alone is not enough. Technology sure is a tool, it's an enabler. But depending on the culture that you have within your agencies, be careful how you implement cloud. It may not be the overnight, the big miracle that you're hoping for. But going back to Secretary Montejo's point, oftentimes we say that technology is a tool. Because the strategy tells us what process to do, and the process dictates what technology to use. That's called the top-down approach. But there's another flip side to this, and that's the bottom-up approach. And this is where technology is your enabler. This is what Secretary Mario was talking about. This technology, called cloud computing, can allow you to do new processes. This technology called cloud computing can allow you to restructure your agencies into a new organizational chart. And that new structure and that new process will allow you to pursue new strategies. So this is the challenge that I leave you with. As I end this part of the talk, this is the challenge that Secretary Monteo was asking you to think about. How can cloud computing be the enabler? Enabler for what? For more transparent government service delivery. For a larger geographical reach. For reduced bureaucratic layers. You, the CIOs, are the wish fulfillment mechanism, right, of many of the secretaries and other secretaries in the nation. And so it's your role to really start thinking, you know, how can I fulfill the wishes of this agency? How can I better serve our constituency? By using this new technology called cloud computing. Okay? How many of you here are actual CIOs? Who work in the IT department? Okay, I see quite a lot. Okay. So, yeah, this is your new role. That's the challenge that we have today. Let me go on now to talk about cloud. So to cloud or not to cloud? That is the question. How many of you are already convinced to use cloud? Can I see a raise of hands? Konti pa lang, 10% pa lang. Come on, Joanne and Herbs, they didn't convince you yet to use cloud? Okay. Some of you are not convinced, okay? But really the driving factor is cost. Cloud can drive down cost. Right now, a lot of you are probably spending almost half of your budget on hardware. You have to build a data center. You have to hire people to operate. You have to pay power at the end of each month. But the cloud can reduce that dramatically. You don't have to buy your own hardware. You don't have to pay electricity. Instead, you can put it in the cloud. But take note, there are 2 kinds of cloud. Very briefly, there's the private cloud, okay, and the public cloud. And somewhere in between, where you keep data on both public and private, is called the hybrid. I just want to flash my definition. And I think this definition jives with what we've seen earlier. When it's a private cloud, it's dedicated to use a single tenant. If you think back into the 80s and the 90s, BPI, for example, had this ATM network called ExpressNet. That was a private ATM network for BPI. Whereas Megalink and BankNet were public clouds. Private can be done on-premise or off-premise. Public is always off-premise. Because there's many tenants. There's increased scale. Talk about thousands of servers in the public cloud. Why is the public cloud so much cheaper? Okay. And this is an example, an explanation of why public cloud is so much cheaper. If it's dedicated to you, ikaw lang gumagamit, it's like that yellow curve. And you're paying for it kahit ginagamit mo or hindi. Because you bought that server, walang ibang gumagamit. If we're talking about a public cloud where there's multi-tenancy, when you're not using it, someone else will use it, that blue line will use it. That's what companies like Google, like Microsoft, like Amazon do. They look for tenants, and this is, the previous slide is just time of day. We're just shifting on a 24-hour cycle. They look for tenants to use it when you're not using it on a daily basis. So pwede mag-multi-tenancy on a daily basis. The next one is even more interesting because this is multi-tenancy on a monthly basis. If you notice, there are some websites that are heavily loaded during holidays because they do shopping, not Target.com or Toys R Us. And there are some websites that are heavily utilized during tax season. And if you take those two tenants and put them on the same data center, again, you achieve those economies of scale. The case study that I brought was actually from the BIR in Mexico, Internal Revenue Service. Actually, this is true for revenue services all over the world. Even in the US, the IRS in the US has 9 data centers. 9 data centers. But 7 of those are locked, okay, for 10 months out of the year. Because they don't need those 7 data centers when it's not tax season. No, so they put blankets over it, they lock everything, they turn off the lights, and they only use 2 data centers for their regular processing. But the taxpayer is paying for those 7 data centers. Kahit nakakandado, kahit, actually there's some electricity going in because you have to maintain still a little bit of operation there. We're paying, whether it's the Mexican taxpayer, the US, the Filipino taxpayer, we're paying for all that capacity. So what the Mexican IRS did was they took Windows Azure, they built a cloud-based solution. As you can see up there, it's handling 2 billion transactions. It was built in 4 months, 30 terabytes of data, less than $1 million. Hybrid cloud. Why hybrid cloud? Because tax information is quite sensitive. If you put the tax information on the public cloud and it gets leaked, then it could be the source for, let's say, kidnappers to target certain individuals. So what the Mexican government did was they said, okay, 90% of the data we can store on the public cloud as long as we don't put the name of the taxpayer. We just put an index number. And so all of that data is in the public cloud, and they're saving a lot of money on that. But they also have a private cloud where they have the taxpayer and the index number. And when they start processing the tax data, they just match the index numbers, and they do the internal processing. Such large amount of savings. Okay. The traditional servers, that shaded area out there, that's the cost per server if you have to buy your own servers. If you put it in a cloud, so that you put all of your data servers in one room, you're able to get your own economy of scale, you get the green line. As you can see, based upon our studies, upon looking at many different data centers all over the world, it starts to get a lot cheaper around the 1,000 server line. In the 1,000 server line. There are no facilities in the Philippines which are 1,000 servers at this point. And it really gets cheaper as you get to the 10,000 and the 100,000 line. And as you can see, even if you have a private cloud, like for example, the company I used to work for, Accenture, it's a private cloud. But to support each user, it still costs a certain amount of dollars. For example, let's say $100 per user per year. But companies that operate public clouds, companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, can cut that even in half to $50 per user per year. Because of the economies of scale in having all of those multi-tenants sharing those resources. This is what a modern data center looks like. Okay, it's just rows and rows of servers, chilled water coming in, 2,400 tons of copper. You really don't need many people to maintain this. Okay. And the cost of real estate drop because you don't need a lot of corridors, you don't need a lot of spaces for people to have their offices. We just stack the container vans on top of each other. Each container van has about 500 servers. At some point, if the servers in that container van start to fail, we pull out the entire container van and just put in a new one. Okay, so the maintenance cost is very low. So that's the type of data center I'm talking about. We're saying tens of thousands of servers, and that's the type of public cloud. So that's the difference between public and private cloud. There was another term that we started using, which was IaaS, PaaS, SaaS.